So if I asked you, what is the best selling biscuit in the world? You might guess Oreo, or Digestives, or maybe even Biscoff. Well, those three would all lose to a humble Indian brand of biscuit called Parle G. Indians love Parle G. The average Indian consumes 100 Parle G biscuits per year, while at least 1 billion packets are produced on a monthly basis. If you stacked the number of Parle G biscuits sold per month, it would be enough to cross the space between the Earth and the Moon. Parle G's history is as equally fascinating as its immense scale. To understand where it came from, we have to go all the way back to India in the 1930s, when it was under British rule and the likes of Gandhi and the independence movement was just starting to rise. In this episode of Mandora, we will discuss the link between Gandhi and Parle G, why Parle G became so popular, who the young girl is on the packet, and why it remains to be such an iconic brand throughout India. To start our story, let's go back to Mumbai in 1929, when a young man called Mohanlal Dayal was deciding what he wants to do with his life in a British occupied India. Mohanlal's family was doing well in the silk business, but he wanted to start something of his own. At the time, Gandhi, the independence movement, and anti-British sentiment was just starting to heat up within India, and Mohanlal was inspired by this. He saw that the best-selling sweets and biscuits in India were always premium British products made by companies such as United Biscuits, Huntley and Palmer's, and Britannia. Biscuits at the time were an elite product, only consumed by the upper classes, which angered Mohanlal, but he also saw an excellent business opportunity to produce confectionery for the masses. Given that Germany at the time was a country with great engineering and manufacturing prowess, he sailed to Germany with the intent of learning how to produce confectionery as well as importing the specialist machines required for a sum of 60,000 rupees at the time. By the time he came back to India with the knowledge and the equipment, he started a company called Parle Products that would start off by selling sweets made up of glucose, pure sugar and milk. The name Parle comes from the fact that he opened his first factory in a suburb of Mumbai called Ville Parle. 12 employees worked in the factory, and the first few products were toffees and candies such as this orange candy, which received minor success. 10 years later, in 1939, Mohanlal wanted to get into the biscuit business, and his strategy was to severely undercut the biscuits consumed by the elite classes in India. He called his biscuit Parle Gluco. The biscuit became a hit because of its price as well as the nationalist angle evident in its founder as well as the biscuit's advertising. For example, when India became independent in 1947, it launched an ad campaign which would promote Parle Gluco as the biscuit for the children of an independent India. The biscuit would also be popular amongst the poor working class of India that toiled in factories day in and day out, as it was a cheap source of calories. Even the Indian soldiers fighting in the British Army in World War II would bring along Parle Gluco biscuits so that they would have sufficient energy for the war. While the actual biscuit appearance and taste would have been similar back then compared to now, the packaging and the name of the brand is noticeably different, which brings us nicely to the next part of our story. In the 1960s, a lot of other companies started to become envious of Parle's success, so they launched their own glucose biscuits that were similar to Parle Gluco and also catered to the masses. For example, one of Parle's largest competitors, Britannia, launched a biscuit called Glucose D and hired one of the most popular actors at the time called Amjad Khan, which was a clear attempt to eat into Parle G's market share. Parle knew they needed a revamp and needed it quick before other brands such as Britannia would target their customers. Firstly, they realized that the word glucose is too technical and unnecessary in their brand name, so reduced the biscuit's name to just Parle G. And also, they went on to hire a brand agency called Everest to completely redesign their packaging. Everest brought in a yellow and red packaging with a white font, and a young girl that would be the face of the brand. And this packaging would soon become the most iconic product packaging in India. The image of the young girl was used as the brand caters largely towards kids, who would often have their Parle G with a glass of milk. There has been a lot of conjecture regarding who the girl is, but the truth is that it was a figment of the imagination of an employee at Everest called Maganlal Daya, and not an actual person. Combining this revamp and a few clever ad campaigns, Parle rose again to be the top selling glucose biscuit. Other brands largely gave up in the glucose category because of Parle's success and went after premium products instead to cater to the rising middle class in India. To this day, Parle G packets can sell for as little as 2 to 5 rupees, which comes to around only 5 cents. You might ask, why can Parle G sell so cheap while other brands can't? Well, this is primarily due to the economies of scale and the sheer size of India's population. By producing the largest amount, Parle can do it at the lowest price, which then leads to them selling the most number of biscuits, and therefore meaning that they can produce at the lowest price, forming a lucrative circle that other brands find hard to crack. Parle have produced other successful biscuits since then, such as Hide and Seek and Monaco, in order to diversify their product offering, but Parle G remains to be 50% of their sales. In fact, 2020 was the best year in a long time for Parle G. A senior executive at the company recently said that Parle G has increased their market share by nearly 5%, and that, at least in the last 30 to 40 years, we have not seen this kind of growth. So why has the lockdown been so good to Parle G? Well, firstly, Indian households have stocked up on the product during lockdowns as it is cheap and a good source of energy. Secondly, the poorer labourers of India have been badly affected by the lockdown, as 80% of those employed in India are informal workers, meaning that they are paid after each day. As business has slowed, this has resulted in them losing their job and attempting to get back home to villages. As Parle G is affordable and doesn't go bad, they've had to rely on the humble biscuit for their nutrition. The company's workers have even said that they cannot shut down their factories during lockdown, as it is their social responsibility to the Indian people. Now back to the present day, Parle G continues to be the best selling biscuit in the world, with 12 billion packets sold annually. Ask any Indian you know and they will immediately recognize the packaging and the young girl that adorns the simple wheat biscuits. That is it for today on Mandora. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the episode, and feel free to check out the other stories on our channel.